All right, and welcome to the fourth episode of Study Abroad Like a G, the podcast. My name is Justine. I'm the host and founder of Study Abroad Like a G. So, on this episode, we are going to answer the question, what are your fears? I have a lot of fears. Some fears I can control, some I can't. But I'm talking about the fears when it comes to studying abroad. Um, During my was it 4 times I've studied abroad, I have learned so much about myself, and I've had fears each and every time. Some that were naturally mine, of things that I thought, and some that were put on me by other people. And a lot of times it's not that they don't want you to do things, it's that they're just fearful, they care for you. Um, so I'm going to share a couple of stories, but before I do that, we're going to quickly talk about the importance of not letting fear stop you. So, a lot of times we have fears of when it comes to studying abroad of leaving people. Maybe we have a family member that's ill or somebody we know that's ill. We have friends. We may have a boyfriend, girlfriend, or a partner. Something may be going on at home and like, I don't want to miss it. Or, what if this happens? These what ifs in the world. And I tell you to ask yourself, what if it doesn't happen? Like that fear of that family member who's ill and you may be scared that they may pass. What if they don't pass? Then you didn't do this amazing experience to change your life and you stayed at home and you didn't do it because you were waiting for somebody to die or this idea that they may possibly die, things like this. Still go. You have fears of, and I'm going to cover this with a global homie in an episode, but what it's like to be in a relationship and study abroad. And what does that mean? I've had friends who are like, oh no, I'm not leaving my boyfriend or I'm not leaving my girlfriend because I don't want to be away from them and they don't want to study abroad, so I'll just stay. And I would say personally, I've never been the type of person to say, oh, because I'm in a relationship with this person, I'm not going to do something. I'm more of I'm going to do it and you're either with me or you're not. Because the benefits of studying abroad can last longer and be better for you than some relationships. Those relationships that will last regardless if you study abroad or not. But again, we will come to this in another episode. But that's just a little food for thought. I will say, do not let a relationship hold you back from studying abroad. If they want to, maybe you guys can do it together. You can both study abroad together, but don't let that be something that holds you back. Another thing that scares us, that brings fear into us, is the fear of money. We're like, oh, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to apply for this program. Or you get into this program and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have this money to pay for it. Because many of us do not come from affluent families. And specifically people of the Black, Indigenous, the people of color community, a lot of us may not have the knowledge of where to get this money. Not necessarily that we don't have access to money, but we may not know like where specifically we can get it. We don't know that depending on your job and who you work for, they may have scholarships you can apply for. Your school may have scholarships. The program that you're applied for may have scholarships. They may be grants for you. If you're left-handed, there's a grant for being left-handed. If you grew up in the foster system, there's scholarships for that. So if you don't know these things, you don't look for these things. And a lot of times, money is probably the number one thing that holds a lot of people back. I've known that to hold most of my friends back from going to other countries, studying abroad. They were like, oh, well, I don't have the money for that. So I'm not going to do it. And they automatically give up because of that fear, because they know money may not be easy for them to come by. So I am here to take all of your fears in my hand and crush them. And we're going to get rid of them because the fears, they really just stop you from doing what you are meant to do, what you're supposed to do. So I'm going to share a few stories of fears that I've had. So fear, one thing I mentioned is family members who may be ill. So I had an uncle. I love this uncle to death. He has kept me going in all my craziness and all of my singing and acting ways. He has just encouraged me to keep going, and he did that from a young age. But he had some heart issues the summer before fall 2013. And I was really scared that he would pass. And I didn't want to be in another country, um, living my best life, doing whatever. And he passed. Like in my mind, I was like, I have to be home because if I'm home, he won't pass. And I remember this. I had a full ride scholarship for the program semester. So he had a full ride scholarship. I was like, I'm not doing it. I I spoke to my mom about it and I was like, I'm scared to go. I don't want to go. And she was like, whatever will happen, regardless if you're here or not. And when she said that, like it sounded harsh, but it was very honest. And sometimes the most honest things sound brutal. Um, but she was right. Whatever would happen regardless if I was there or not. And she was like, uh, if it happens, um, we will find a way to bring you home if we can, things like that. And what I ended up coming to terms with is that I couldn't stop living my life. And I knew that that uncle, he wouldn't want me to do that. And quick update, he's fine, he's alive. And to think the idea that I wouldn't have gone, and I possibly could have lost my scholarship and things like that, and he wouldn't have died. So don't hold yourself back for these fears. I also mentioned people have fears and they put those on you. So the first time I went abroad by myself, and I like went abroad. The first time I went by myself, I was like, whole different country, whole different language, like nothing close to what I've known. So when I was a freshman in college, I was taking Arabic and I was like, oh, I need to go to Lebanon because they were like, oh, you can go spend a month in Lebanon and learn Arabic. And I was like, oh, I'm going. So when I told my mom, I was like, I'm going to Lebanon. Like, I'm letting you know that I'm doing this. I've already decided I'm doing this. Mind you, I had no way to pay for it. And when I told my mom that I was going to Lebanon, she just kind of like froze. And me and all my excitement, I didn't really think of that. I didn't sit on that. And then to hear the story of why she was scared. So she had a brother, one of my uncles, he was in the military, and it was in the 80s. And during the time, there were there were some bombings in Beirut, Lebanon, and that's specifically where I was going. And my mom just was scared because for a point in time they hadn't heard from him, and I think it was maybe a few days. So they were scared that he may have been hurt or killed, um, and he wasn't. He got out alive, thank God. But my mom was really scared because she was like, "I'm gonna send my daughter into that." And that again is not that she has the idea that going to the Middle East means that you'll get bombed. She's very aware that the chances of me getting shot in America are higher than being bombed in the Middle East. But her trauma with that was somebody who's also very close to her. So from a sibling to a kid, she was just like, we'll think about it. And I think there were certain things that had to happen, conversations with my older sister. My grandpa was like, yeah, let her go. And my mom was just like, really? I should let her go? Like, my brother. And he was like, that was a long time ago. Let her go. And so it took my mom a while. Now, granted, I was still prepping, I was going. But she was okay, like you can go, but she really settled in with me going probably like a few days before me leaving. And this is just to, tell you that your parents may be extremely scared of you going abroad and going to certain places. And their parents, that's them just doing their job, caring for you, loving for you. They want to make sure you're okay. But also make sure that you don't make their fears your fears. I didn't make her fear mine because I didn't have a connection to that trauma in a sense of being scared, not hearing somebody in that way. Um, but what I learned was that, oh, like, okay, this is how sometimes our parents' ideas of things or other people's ideas or fears are put on us. And so that's a way that I have learned kind of to not let fear block me in what I'm going to do. Another thing I talked about is money. Fear of not being able to afford the experience. That is again, a reason why a lot of people don't do it, but a particular story for me surrounding that is I remember I applied for a semester at sea. And for those who know what semester at sea is, it is a study abroad program where you are on a cruise ship for 4 months and you go to several, I want to say, there are around about 13 different countries, maybe 13 countries, 15 cities. Some countries you may go to another city within it. And I was like, yes, going, can't wait. I was like, I need to apply for it. Um, and me and my mom looked at the price tag on it. I will say my parents have always had really good jobs where I've never wanted for things, but I also have other siblings and I had another sibling in college during that time. And, we have 4 kids. That right there is expensive. So, um, my idea when I saw that the price tag, I was like, ooh, that's a little pricey. How am I going to do that? And my mom was like, we got to find a way to pay for it. And when she says we, she means like, you got to find a scholarship. My mom was always helpful with my, hey, here's the scholarship, or I'll look over your essay and things like that. So I was like super scared. And then I saw that semester at sea had an HBCU scholarship. And I was like, well, I go to an HBCU. At the time, I'm a graduate of Bennett College in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I was like, well, I go to an HBCU. Let me apply for this. So I applied for it, got the application in, barely, but I got it in. And I ended up getting the HBCU scholarship, which fully covered my entire time on the ship. So it covered my tuition, my room and board. Um, and the only thing I had to pay for were like any extra things I wanted when I was on the ship, excursions and things like that that were not connected to my class field trips. So with that said, I found a way to get over a fear that I had, which was the financial fear of not being able to afford something. And that's just to tell you that whatever program you look for, I'm 75% there is a scholarship, grant, some type of free money attached to it. A lot of these programs are going because of free money. So there's free money to give away, or there's money that's allocated for this program. So there is somebody out there that says, I give this much money a year to this program so they can do this. There are tons of organizations that are willing to fund people, especially if you're a member of the Black, Indigenous, and people of color community. There are so many scholarships out there for us. And a lot of times it's just we don't know. Sometimes the money just sits because they're like, oh, we have this money, but nobody, they may do, put an effort for it to let people know, but nobody applies for it because they're scared because the application is long. They're like, oh, I have to write 2 essays and do this and do that. I don't want to do it. Do it. Because you simply doing it makes your chances so much higher in getting the money. When I applied for the HBCU scholarship with Semester at Sea, one thing that I had been doing, when I was applying for colleges and scholarships, they would ask, and they still have that now. They were like, "Oh, do you have any extra material?" And this was the age of like mailing in scholarships. Now everything is like digital, but they would ask you to like mail in certain pieces, and I would send in a DVD. So I had this video that kind of, with I think it was like "Fine" by Mary J. Blige, and in the while the music played, and would like give a little bit of little snippets of things that I've done, community service, plays that I've done, me singing, performing, aspirations, all these things. And so that was cool because they were like, "Oh, we get to see like what she's doing in real time." So they had a DVD, a video of like a song, they could jam to it while they're watching it. And then they also had my essays, they had my resume, my CV, list of all these things that I was doing. So I automatically put myself on another level application wise. So those are just some tips and things for you to do. And that's only if they ask for it. If they say do not send in any extra material, don't do it, because that can also automatically take you out of the running. When you apply for these scholarships, they want to make sure that you're following the directions to a T. So just make sure that fear is not something that's going to get in your way. If it gets in the way, just push it to the side and keep going, because honestly, sometimes that one thing that you fear, um, that fear can hold you back from living the best life you can live. And we're all about living our best life here, especially when it comes to studying abroad like a G, the podcast. So I will see you next time. And thank you so much for coming, watching, or listening to this episode of Study Abroad Like a G. Bye.